Hello viewers, I hope all of you are doing good. We are starting a series of lectures on GST law for the better understanding and the benefit of all. So today we have chosen a topic of supply, definition of supply and the scope of supply under the draft GST law. Friends, before I elaborate on the same, I would like to give a little bit of background so that it would be easy to understand for all of us. So under the present regime, if we think excise, if we talk about the excise, on which thing excise is to be levied? It is the manufacture. It is the manufacture of goods on which excise duty has to be levied. If we talk about the VAT regime, it is the transfer of property in goods on which VAT has to be levied. In the same way, if we talk about the service tax, it is the services on which service tax has to be levied. In the same way, under the GST regime, what would be the thing on which GST is to be levied? It is the supply. It can be of goods or services or goods and services. So now we will see the definition of supply. Under section 295, it has been written under the GST law that the definition of supply would be as per the section 3. So it directs us to section 3. Now we will elaborate on the section 3. Section 3 says, subsection 1, supply includes all forms of supply of goods and or services such as sale, transfer, barter, exchange, license, rental, lease or disposal made or agreed to be made for a consideration by a person in the course of furtherance of business. Now what does that mean? So we have to see that the definition of supply starts from supply includes. That means it is an inclusive definition. It says supply includes all forms of supplies. That means the legislature has intended not to give an exhaustive definition of a supply. He wants to cover all such situations which might be occurred in future. So that is why it has written all forms of supply such as sale, transfer, barter, exchange, license, rental, lease, disposal made or agreed to be made for a consideration. So meaning thereby is it should be for a consideration. If it is not for a consideration, that does not constitute supply as per section 3(1). Mind you, it is we are talking about subsection 1 of section 3. So and supply should be in the form of in the course or furtherance of business. It can be in the course of the business or furtherance of the business. So that has to be kept in mind. It further goes, subsection 1(b) says importation of services for a consideration whether or not in the course or furtherance of a business. Now what does it mean? It means that if somebody is importing services, say Mr. X has taken some services from a person sitting outside India for his personal consumption. He is not doing any business. Still, he will have to pay a GST on that. GST would be levied on that. And it should be for a consideration. Because it says importation of services for a consideration whether or not in the course or furtherance of business. So it should be for a consideration. If there is no consideration, there won't be any GST. If there is some consideration against it, and whether it does not matter whether it is for furtherance or in the course of business or not. It does not matter. It only says it should be for a consideration. That's it. Now it further goes. A supply, subsection C says, a supply is specified in schedule 1, made or agreed to be made without a consideration. So now what does it mean? It refers to schedule 1. So So there might be some situations under the GST regime in which we are taking some supply without, or we are making some supply without consideration. Even then it would be taxable under the GST would be levied on that. So what are those situations? We will have to come on the schedule 1. So schedule 1 says matters to be treated as supply even if made without consideration. It says, that means it says there can be some circumstances under the GST regime which is defined by schedule 1, that under which there won't be any consideration, even then they would be taxable under the GST regime. So now the first instance is this: permanent transfer / disposal of business assets where input tax credit has been availed on such assets. Now think about the situation where there is a business, they have acquired some assets, they have taken the input credit on those assets, like we do in the existing regime also, existing laws on service tax, on excise, on VATs also, we take credit on the capital goods acquired. Now due to some reason, if we are selling of the business or selling of the assets of the business, so even though we are disposing of the assets without any consideration, say we are making some charity to some organization, we are giving some computers, laptops to some charity organizations, even then GST would be levied on such transactions. The idea is very simple behind that. The legislature want the GST should go with the transactions. It is a destination based tax, mind you. So whenever transactions goes away or assets goes away, the tax would be carried along with that. Now the second nature of transaction is supply of goods or services between related persons or between distinct persons as specified in section 10 when made in course of furtherance of business. Now when there is some transaction or supply taking place between the related persons or between the distinct person, when it is made in the course or furtherance of business, it would be, even if made without any consideration, it would be taxable under the GST regime. Now the third situation comes, which says the relationship between the principal and agent. So what does it say? Supply of goods by a principal to his agents, where agents undertake to supply such goods on behalf of the principal, or by, there is a vice versa position also, by an agent to his principal, where the agent undertakes to receive such goods on behalf of the principal. What does that mean? It simply says the principal will have to pay the GST for the goods given by him to his agents, and agent will sell these goods on behalf of the principal to somebody else. And there might be a vice versa situation also, where agent receives the goods on behalf of the principal and principal would further receive it, so GST would be levied. Another example in case would be like the present scenario under the excise duty, when there are branch transfers, when goods are transferred from head office to branch, or one depot to another depot, so excise duty is levied. The same scenario has been seen in the GST also. Now again the fourth point comes: importation of services by a taxable person from a related person or from any other establishment outside India in the course or furtherance of business. So it says, even if there is some supply without consideration, so when one taxable person is importing some services from a related person who is sitting outside India, or any of his establishment outside India in the course or furtherance of business, that means it can be without consideration, but it should be in the course or furtherance of business. If it is not in the course of furtherance of business, then it is not taxable, right? And we have already covered one scenario under section 3(1)(b), where it says importation of services for a consideration whether or not in the course of or furtherance of business. That means under section 3(1)(b) it says if anybody is importing services for a consideration, then there is no condition whether it is for a furtherance or in the course of business. But if somebody is taking importation of services, making some import of services in India without any consideration with a related person, then it should be in the course or furtherance of business, and it would be taxable even if it is taken without any consideration. Okay, so this was schedule 1. I hope it is clear. So now supply is not still end. Now it goes on to, we will move on to section 3 subsection 2, which says schedule 2 in respect of matters mentioned therein shall apply for determining what is or is to be treated as supply of goods or a supply of service. This is basically, now they are referring to schedule 2, and schedule 2 is nothing but it defines the matters. It tells us the matters to be treated, which matters are to be treated as supply of goods and which matters are to be treated as supply of services. So now the one point number 1 under this schedule 2 is transfer. So it says any transfer of the title in goods is a supply of goods. So when we are making any transfer of goods, the title of goods, it is a goods, supply of goods. This is very simple. And the present scenario also we are following the same principle. So now it goes on further, point B. Any transfer of goods or of rights of goods or of undivided share in goods without the transfer of title thereof is a supply of services. So when there is a transfer of goods without the title of goods, it would be treated as supply of services. It won't be treated as the supply of goods. Now it further goes on to point C, which says any transfer of title in goods under an agreement which stipulates that property in goods will pass at a future date upon payment of full consideration as agreed is a supply of goods. This is again very simple. Suppose we are making any contract with somebody that title of these goods would be transferred at a future date when you paid the full consideration. So it would be treated as a supply of goods. This is very simple. So now further point is land and building. So it says any lease, tenancy, easement, license to occupy land is a supply of services. So any lease, rental, easement, license to occupy land is a supply of services. Under the present regime also, under service tax, renting of immovable property is a service. Service tax is applicable on that. So it is very clear. Any lease or letting out of building including a commercial, industrial or residential complex for business or commerce, either wholly or partly, is a supply of services. Again it is very clear. It simply says if we are renting out any immovable property, whether commercial, industrial, residential, it would be a supply of services. Now the third point says treatment or process. Any treatment or process which is being applied to another person's goods is a supply of services. This is talking about the job work. If we are making some processing on somebody else's goods, it is a job work and it would be treated as a supply of services. Now point number 4, transfer of business assets. Where goods forming part of assets of a business are transferred or disposed of by under the directions of the person carrying on the business so as no longer to form part of those assets, whether or not for a consideration, such transfer or disposal is a supply of goods by the person. That means if we are transferring some assets, then it would be treated as supply of goods. It further goes on, it says whereby or under the direction of a person carrying on a business, goods held or used for the purpose of the business are put to any private use or are used or made available to any person for use for any purpose other than purpose of business, whether or not for a consideration. The usage or making available such goods is a supply of services. So now what does it say? Suppose I am a trader. I have a shop of electronics. I put some refrigerator in my home for temporary basis, and then I put back that refrigerator to my shop. So it would be treated as a supply of services. Now another example can be quoted here. If I allow my relative to use some of the electronics from my shop, and then I took back that electronic at my shop, it would be a supply of services. It won't be a supply of goods. It further goes on, where any person ceases to be a taxable person, any goods forming part of the asset of any business carried on by him shall deemed to be supplied by him in the course of furtherance of business immediately before he ceases to be taxable, unless the business is transferred as a going to person to another person, or the person is carried on by a personal representative who is deemed to be a taxable person. Okay, so now whatever we have discussed right now, these are the matters which would be treated as goods. And further it further specified the following matters should specifically be treated as supply of services: renting of immovable property, okay. Now come back to the definition of supply. We have gone through the schedule 2 also. Now section 3, subsection 3, notwithstanding anything contained in subsection 1. Now this is a overriding provision. It overrides it says that whatever said has been subsection 1, this section overrides that. Notwithstanding anything contained in subsection 1. 3a, what says? Activities or transactions specified in schedule 3, or activities or transactions undertaken by central government, state government, or any local authority in which they are engaged as public authorities as specified in schedule shall be treated neither as supply of goods nor a supply of services. So this section is a very dangerous section. It clearly mentions that these transactions won't be treated as supply of goods nor as a supply of services. So what are these transactions? Schedule 3, transaction number 1, services by an employee to the employer in the course of or in relation to his employment. That means if an employee is providing services to employer, this won't be treated as nor it would be treated as a supply, neither it would be treated as a services. Supply of neither as a supply of goods nor as a supply of services. So but there can be some situations in which schedule 3, we will have to look upon what would be the future of those transactions and how legislature would cover those transactions. Suppose we are paying, employer is paying some retrenchment compensation to the employee. So what would be the scenario in that case? Whether it would be supply of goods or supply of services, because it does not cover under the first instance services, because once employee has been retrenched and the compensation is paid, he is no more employee and still he is getting paid. So we will have to look upon in future what would be the resolution for this. Second thing is services by any court or tribunal established under any law for the time being in force. So any services provided by court or tribunal won't be treated as supply of good or supply of services. Then it further goes, it says the functions performed by the MPs, MLAs, members of panchayats, member of municipalities and members of other local authorities. So again these won't be treated as supply of goods, neither these would be treated as supply of services. The duties performed by any person who holds any post in pursuance of provisions of the constitution in that capacity. The duties performed by any person as a chairperson or a member or a director in a body established by the central government or a state government or local authority and who is not deemed as an employee before the commencement of this clause. Services by a foreign diplomat mission located in India. Any services provided by any foreign diplomat in India won't be taxable under GST regime. Again, services of funeral, burial, crematorium or mortuary, including transportation of the deceased. So these services again won't be treated as a supply of goods nor as a supply of services. So now come back to the main section, section 3. Section 3 subsection 4. Subject to subsection 2 and subsection 3, the central government or a state government may, upon recommendation of council, specify by notification the transactions that are to be treated as a supply of goods or not as a supply of services, or a supply of services and not as a supply of goods, or neither a supply of goods nor a supply of services. So what does it mean? It says that central government has the power, central or state government has the power upon, but when? Only on the recommendation of the GST council, that it by notification it would specify what supply of goods, which supply would be a supply of goods, which supply is a supply of services, which supply would be neither a supply of goods nor a supply of services. So by notification government has that authority. Now we will move forward to subsection 5. Section 3 subsection 5. The tax liability on a composite or a mixed supply shall be determined in the following manner. So there is a term composite supply and a mixed supply which needs to be understood. Now in case of composite or mixed supply, when there is a composite supply comprising two or more supplies, one of which is a principal supply, shall be treated as a supply of such principal supply. So what is a composite supply? Composite supply is basically a supply which includes supply of more than one ingredient. Suppose a automobile, headlights are supplied along with the car, right? So it should not be like that. Lights are taxed on a different rate and car is taxed on a different rate. When we purchase a car, there is a flat rate on a car. So under the GST regime also it would be same. It would be like same. So it would be called a composite supply, and it says one of which is a principal supply. So the principal supply is, in our example, car is the principal supply. So whatever would be the rate applicable on the car, it would be applicable on the light also. So it would be taxable on the rate of principal supply. Now it further goes on, it says a mixed supply comprising two or more supplies shall be treated as supply of that particular supply which attracts the higher rate of tax. So in case of mixed supply, what is mixed supply? Mixed supply is basically, suppose we are purchasing a soap and some honey is given free along with that soap. So this is a mixed kind of supply which is not related to each other. So GST law says we would tax on the basis of the highest rate of tax item. Suppose honey attracts more tax than the soap, so this supply would be taxable at the rate of honey. So that's it. There ends the definition, meaning and scope of supply. I would again conclude. Now the legislature has given a exhaustive inclusive definition rather than an exhaustive definition, because they want to keep open the space so that some unseen or unique transaction can be taxed can be bring under the purview of the supply. So it includes all forms of supply such as sale, transfer, barter, exchange, license, rental, lease or disposal made or agreed to be made for a consideration by a person in the course or furtherance of business. Then it includes importation of importation of services for a consideration whether or not in the course or furtherance of business. So if we are making any import of services, for a consideration, it does not matter whether it is in the course or furtherance of business, it would be taxable under the GST regime. Now it further goes, it says there can be some transactions which would be without consideration, even then it would be taxable under the GST regime, because it comes under the definition of supply. Then it further goes on, it tells us about what matters would be treated as supply of goods, what matters would be treated as supply of services, and then it specified which matters would not be treated as, neither would be treated as supply of goods nor would be treated as supply of services. And then it says, the scope, the government has the power to, on the recommendation of council, to specify by notification the transactions to be treated as a supply of goods and not as supply of services, a supply of services and not as supply of goods, and neither as a supply of goods nor as a supply of services. And then it tells us in case of composite or mixed supply, how the transaction would be taxable. So I hope I was able to explain the definition of supply. I hope you would like it. If you like it, please subscribe it for the further lectures. Thank you very much.